overwhelmed trying to navigate the school system to meet your child's needs? Educational Equity Advisors is here to help. Led by Alyssa Malaspina, a board-certified special education advocate with over 25 years of experience, Educational Equity Advisors specializes in guiding parents through the complexities of school districts, including securing 504 plans, IEPs, and out-of-district placements when necessary. Educational Equity Advisors believes that income should never be a barrier to getting your child the education they deserve. That's why Educational Equity Advisors offers free consultations and sliding scale payment options to make their services accessible to all families. Discover how Educational Equity Advisors can empower you to be your child's strongest advocate. Visit Educational Equity Advisors today and take the first step towards educational equity for your family. For more information, please check out educationalequityadvisors.com. Again, educationalequityadvisors.com. And welcome to the Soma Talks podcast, sponsored by the Cannabis Lady Dispensary, Go to Kitchen, Davis Advocacy and Consulting, and Educational Equity Advisors. I'm Lee Navlin, and once again, I am joined by Ileana. She doesn't take no for an answer, Castillo.
Hi,
Hello, Ileana. How are you today?
I'm good. You are right. I never take a no for an answer. Well,
that's why I wanted to use this nickname today to say you take no for an answer, because we have two very special guests that were not easy to get a hold of.
No, they were not easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for BOE candidates Deirdre Brown and Bimal Kapadia.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, thank you so much. You guys are so busy. I know your schedule is so tight. We have an election coming up in just a few days. So really taking a few moments to come down to the studio to say hi to us and talk a little bit about what you plan to do once elected. We really do appreciate that.
How are you guys?
By the way, Jeff Bennett, he wanted to stop by too, but he had a prior family obligation, which prevented him from attending. So, Jeff, we love you too. But in any case, we do have Deirdre and Bimal. So, Ileana, I know you have 900 questions for them.
900? No, I have more than 900. But how are you guys? How's the stress level?
It's good, you know. It's been a wild ride, but it's been really gratifying, and we've had an amazing time talking to everyone in our when we've been campaigning. I mean, just talking to our community, I think, has been so uplifting throughout all of this. So it's been good.
It's been a lot, right? I mean, I think we all underestimated a little bit of how much work goes into the campaign while trying to manage your family, while trying to manage work, while trying to manage your own personal lives. But as Deirdre said, it's been, you know, we're getting closer to the end here, and a lot of the positives of the people we've met along the way, people we've spoken with, things we've learned, it's been carrying us through. And by the way, we have to give a big shout out to all the volunteers that have been helping us.
Absolutely.
They've been all over the place. They've been canvassing for us. They've been on the socials. They've been knocking door to door. They've been helping us with merch, with palm cards, with flyers, with whatever it may be. So we wouldn't be here. That part is easy. They're making our part look easy with all the stuff behind the scenes.
There's a lot of negatives when you run for office because how time-consuming it is, but the rewarding aspects of it. And years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, it was the volunteers that we met, it was the people along the way we met, the issues that we addressed. And yeah, I certainly appreciate that because, look, you guys, this is a volunteer work job if elected. It's in a lot of ways it's thankless. In a lot of ways, people are going to say, we're going to walk up to you at the supermarket and walk up to you in town and they're going to say, why can't you do this or that? So stepping up to the plate is really appreciated. So I guess my first question to you, and then Ileana's going to ask all the other questions. That's how we roll around here on the Soma Talks podcast. Is what made you guys decide to run for office in the first place?
Good question.
You want me to go first? Okay. You know, when I first moved to Maplewood, I went to the board meetings all the time. I do policy for a living. Mm-hmm. I work for the Government Accountability Office. So policy evaluation, how to make government more efficient, more effective, work for the people is what I do. It's what I studied. And so I thought this is a way I can give back locally. When I went to the board meetings at that time, they were still, they'd go 11, 12 p.m. I had two little kids, and I couldn't take it on at that point in my life. Fast forward now, my daughter last year was the Board of Ed rep. And so, I had been following the board somewhat over the years, but especially last year I followed it because she was on the board. And last year was, I mean, between, you know, the push to get rid of honors, the superintendent, that intense meeting in November, the budget, the cuts to the arts, the cuts to the teachers. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it felt like to me kind of a now or never moment in a way. I know Bimal's been feeling this way too. It's kind of like, what is going on? You know, this doesn't reflect who our community is. And so I thought, you know, if this now or never moment, I have this skill set, I have the time in my life right now to serve. So let me try and help be part of the solution and get us back on track.
So I like the fact that you're basically following in your daughter's footsteps. It sounds like
she left some big feet to fill.
Yeah, no, I would imagine, right? She's like, Mom, that's not how you handle this. But Bimal, how about you?
So I think for me, a little bit similar in that I've got my kids entered the district during COVID. And so they entered kindergarten and they were in preschool at the time. And I think everybody was forced to pay attention a little bit more to school, what was happening, whether it be on Zoom or trying to do in person or, you know, some of the hybrid learning. But a lot of the issues that were probably plaguing the district were coming to the forefront, particularly with everything that's happening on the education side, right? And then you saw the fractures within the Board of Ed. You saw the fractures with the leadership. You saw the intentional distance that was being put from the parents to the teachers. So something just wasn't adding up. And I think even if you, as we got out of and dismounted COVID, parents that were involved really didn't rebound back. They still stayed involved, and you had to be a little bit more vigilant in terms of what's happening. So I think a lot of these things that you've taken for granted were no longer taken for granted. And so as a result, I followed along a little bit more closer. And the spirit to want to run probably happened with Tony and Jeff's run last year.
A year ago.
Correct.
All of a sudden you said, wow, there's an opportunity here to make some changes.
Exactly
in a good
right.
way.
They almost won.
They almost won, and these guys, they were saying a lot of the things that we were thinking. They were representing a lot of things that representing what was at stake, some of the shortfalls and the behaviors and policy decisions. So I went to a meet and greet where I became a lot more interested in what they were saying, and then who would have thought that would have been 1 year later. But similar to what Deirdre was saying in terms of where you are in your life, and all this stuff is funny as we get into the end of this campaign run, whether it's win or lose. You sort of wonder, how did you end up here? And while we go through that journey that we just talked about, I actually think a lot about now. My mother was a social worker and never really paid attention to that, as she was an immigrant that came in and walked away from a lot of that life behind her. But around this time, I have two older brothers. One's 8 years older and the other is 4 years older than me. Around the same ages that I'm at right now, my brother started a nonprofit for overseas, for Africa and India, and education and water safety and clean water. My brother became chancellor of his alma mater. And now here I am in the Board of Ed stuff. So it's a very uncoordinated, uncommunicated path that we've all ended up of thinking about what's next in our lives.
It's a dysfunctional family calling of sorts.
Unintentional, right?
Unintentional family calling. That's right.
I won't reveal my age totally, but I am starting to think about what's next.
No.
And I think this Board of Ed run could be a signal of some things where I strongly believe in service. I believe in service should be nothing that's like it shouldn't be short term. It should always be a long term thing. But what you need to step in at some point.
Yeah, and certainly, I've told this before. I have a friend of mine. He's in another township where there's less focus on everything. Like here, we have a paparazzi in SOMA, so to speak, the Village Green, and you've got the social media sites, and everybody seems to know what's going on. You have 7 people running for office right now. He basically ran. They said, anybody want to run for a Board of Ed? He said, I'll run, and he basically, congratulations.
Oh my God, just like that.
Yeah, basically. This town's a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's a focus, there's a magnifying glass. How are you finding that? Are you finding your life has really changed in a good way, in a not so good way? Your thoughts on this run so far and what you've experienced?
I've been talking a lot. You can...
Okay. I think it's been on one hand, I haven't spent really any time. I wasn't even on Facebook before this campaign began. So in that sense, I've been above the fray, I think. It's been, some of what's been going on Facebook's been pretty disheartening at times in terms of people saying things about me that are certainly not true. But when that happens, I just call Bimal or Jeff and I say, I'm going to go out and canvass. Right. And it just makes me feel so much better because I know the negativity that you might read. It's a few people. It's not, and it does not represent who we are in SOMA by any means. And so that it's been disheartening there. But then when I go out and talk to people, it's so much, it lifts me up so much more, you know?
Correct.
So, so it's been a little bit of a roller coaster in that regard. But I wouldn't change it for anything because I've learned so much from our community. I feel like, again, I say this over and over. It's just awesome where we live. We have so many talented individuals from all walks of life, diversity, you know, by every definition of the word. And so I really feel like this is such a special opportunity to try and get our district to match that. And I've been so, like Bimal said, our volunteers, our friends, our neighbors, that's just been so wonderful. You know, I drive up my street and I see all these signs and I just, you know, it's so warm. It's wonderful.
Oh my God. The other day when I was telling Lee the other day, I don't go to South Orange very often, but the day that I went, I was surprised to see how many of your lawn signs, like long streets. I turn around more and I'm like, you guys got South Orange.
It's like a purple river.
It's a purple river. How did you guys canvass all those people? Like, I'm like, they really are like stepping it up here. Like,
that's true. Yeah, you really, you know what?
Yeah.
One thing is, hey, I'll take your lawn sign, but they have to know to take your lawn sign.
Yeah.
So that took the volunteers and yourselves and coordinating people to come out and say, hey, we got your back. That must have been a heck of a challenge.
yes.
It was a challenge for sure, but it was one that we signed up for, right? And I think so much of this was knocking on doors, old school style, right? I mean, we knocked on so many doors where somebody said, I've lived here for 12, 20 years and no one's ever knocked on my door.
Oh, really?
For the Board of Ed. I mean, people have knocked on their door.
For the Board of Ed,
but for the Board of Ed. So I think they've appreciated
like
that freshness and putting a name to the face, not just digital avatar that's out there with putting some personality behind it. And go back to your earlier question of like what we learned out of this stuff. I mean, this town is wild.
It is.
I mean, for not being as involved in knowing the board and knowing all the different pockets of communications that are out there, just learning about all these groups, all these different constituents or different plot lines and different things that are happening. It's you're just binging this content all the time, just trying to figure out like how do I navigate this stuff. But if anything, what Deirdre mentioned of what's happening on social, right? You cannot use that as an indicator as to what the pulse of the town is, right? It's no different than what's happening on the national scale, even global scale, right? You have to double source, triple source check this stuff and what's happening on here. It's easy to be a keyboard hero. It's easy to be a text.
Right, to say something, it's not true, and then the second person says, well, I read it online, and people tend to run with it. So.
It's like shouting into a well, and you have these different biodomes of where their own content that's happening. They're not even talking to each other and all this stuff, right? So it's like it's other parts of the internet that I have no idea even existed, right?
That's true.
And
That's true.
and again, so this is South Orange. SOMA is a microcosm of what's actually happening on a national scale, and this is just a Board of Ed election scale, right? Yes. Think about all the misinformation that's out there on the national scale.
Exactly.
Right?
Talk about misinformation, and I want to touch on this briefly, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Michelle Obama once said, "When they go low, we go high." I feel your opponents went low with a flyer that they was in their name. They claim, or Arun at least told me. He learned of it as I've learned of it, directed at your running mate. I guess we could call it a running mate. I guess what we call it a running mate.
Yeah, there was a group of former Board of Ed that endorsed the Huawei, Arun, and Bethany, and they signed it. And
I think
there was some nice, kindly.
I think it was debunked, clearly debunked, and it was wrong, and there's no place for anything like that. Your thoughts on that?
How did you guys feel when you guys I'm sure your phone was blowing when that came out, and a lot of people had questions. How did you feel when you read it?
I think having that pit in your stomach when you're about to see something bad unfold, or you get a bad turn of the card or something like that. Right?
There's a car crash up ahead or something, and you're about to see it.
And I think for Deirdre, and by the way, she should come in next year, is I think that's where we thought, okay, this is unfortunate. This is a side of the campaign that we thought could happen, but we didn't think it would, right? And look, misinformation aside, there was a few things. There was a false narrative that was built, but there was also a fallacy of things that happened to get to that spot.
Correct.
I think the one thing that everybody should remember, all your listeners, is that original flyer was actually submitted to one of the local trades. Tap or Village Green, whatever it was, and it got rejected.
Right.
Correct.
It wasn't fact checked. It wasn't second sourced. You didn't get an oppo comment or a quote.
They didn't put it up. It got deleted.
So they put it up, and then they realized quickly that it was reckless.
Right. Yeah.
And then they put up on their own website. So they doubled down a second time.
Right. So realizing this was inappropriate and wrong and nonsense, they doubled down.
Were they afraid that they might get sued, and that's why they took it down?
It's hard to say. I don't know, but I think
the journalist just he said, put it on. It said Board of Ed stuff. I'll take it. And then he said, and this is the tap into Fred. I know Fred. I think Fred said, he read it. He was like, nah. Not for me.
And then when we looked at it a little bit further, we also saw that it was a sponsored post. So you pay to play. Look, I come from media and journalism, so you got to pay to play. Exactly, so again. Right. Some things that are there, but look, at the end of it here, the message that was there, and we don't need to recap it, because once you deposit that stuff in people's brains, it stays there.
Yeah.
But this is a volunteer position. You mentioned it's a thankless position. It's a volunteer position. We're doing this for all the right reasons. When you make insinuations like that, you put somebody's career, you put somebody's family, you put their friends, you put a lot of things at jeopardy.
Yes.
At what cost? Does winning mean to do that stuff? I
don't think they even thought about that. It was like they went to destruction full. Like, I don't care who we're taking. It's just we're destroying it. How did you feel, Brown, about this?
I mean, I think that was probably the lowest point of our campaign. For sure.
I figured.
Like Bimal said, just to blatantly put something out there that completely is misleading, not the truth, and can be life-destroying. It was unbelievable, really, because I don't think it represents who we are as a community, and I don't think it represents who we want as leaders in our district either.
I agree. I think, I was kind of ambivalent to the whole process. I don't know anybody that well, but when you see something like that, you're like, okay, not them. That was basically my thought. Not them. If that's what they're going to do, that doesn't work.
And I think that the backlash was swift, right? I mean, I think you saw the community rally up. Everybody was like, okay, a Rubicon was just crossed.
Yes, exactly.
And now there's no going back to that. And
are you surprised they haven't apologized to Jeff about this?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm shocked, actually.
I really thought they would put out a statement and say, look, I'm sorry, whatever. We didn't mean to go that far,
Yeah, I think there could have been.
From both sides, because Arun, and Bethany haven't apologized yet. They haven't said, we have nothing to do with this. It feels like they are supporting this, which is kind of disappointing.
I think sometimes you're too far in the trees. How's that saying? You're too far in the trees to see the woods, or too far in the woods to see the trees.
Forest for the trees.
Right, that's that's the type of things my father used to always tell me when he was around, and I wish I listened more closely. But basically, I think hopefully in due time they'll say, wow.
Well, in its wake, we also, at the second debate, we gave them a chance to actually denounce it.
Yeah.
And they didn't take it.
No, that was a good opportunity to say something.
But moving forward, if you get on the board, when you get on the board, what's the first thing you want to do?
I want to know.
What's
the first thing you have in hand?
Deirdre, what's the first thing you're going to do? You know, that first day. You know, if you could just affect change immediately, what would that be?
Affect
see
change
the budget.
immediately. The budget. I mean, yeah, I think the budget is number one.
You want to see the details, like what exactly are they spending our money?
I mean, if you don't have a sound budget, if you don't have a budget that thinks over the years, you can't do anything. And we have so many issues. You know, we have to make progress on these equity recommendations. Our, special education department, I mean, it's shocking how many stories we've heard about how that's failing so many families and so many students. We can't, and I think part of the budget also relates to the busing situation, because I think there is an opportunity there for some efficiencies without changing the initiative, we support the intentional integration initiative and the rebalancing, but we think we can do it smarter, and that's related to the budget. So certainly the budget, but also I think it's about meeting with the super, meeting with, his administration, and meeting with the other members of the board, because I do think the only way we're all going to succeed is if we start to take the temperature down and start to work like colleagues.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that we would do is I think we try and get that spirit of collaboration going again. I think we'd want to bring the people that felt inside again, bring the teachers closer, bring the students closer, bring the parents closer, just to be the listening vehicle for that stuff, right? And, I think part of the reasons why also Deirdre and I are running is that you can only do so much from the sideline. And I think by getting into the Board of Ed, you're at least dealing with as much perfect information as possible. And I think it will be our duty to be as transparent as possible to the community, and try and get to the spot where we can, if decisions were being made, why were they being made? Why was it communicated in a certain way? Again, it's easy to shake your fist from the sidelines.
Yeah.
We've all done that, right?
Sure.
But if Deirdre and I can get in there, we are making a promise that we want to be accountable. We want to be transparent. We want to open the lines of communication. And by the way, that's not a Board of Ed thing. That's anything.
Do you think it's possible you guys can try to make the board transparent? Because I know you guys are aware about this invoice about hiring an outside person for the guidance thing, and apparently half of the board wasn't aware that this was happening and they didn't know about the invoice. You think it's possible you guys can make that like
the mystery second invoice? I think, is that what you're
the only way they found out it was because of an Oprah someone made. Like, how can we fix this? Like, there's more transparent. Like, you guys are not in the dark. Like, oh my God, I didn't know. That doesn't look
it seems like it was an $83,500 paid to an outside consultant, $83,500, and I guess
they divided the two.
It was divided, and it was secretive. It was not secretive. Some people. What's your take on all that?
What's your feeling about that? That's why I'm talking about transparency. Like, how can we fix this?
I think that I do think that Mr. Bing, I think we have to give him some grace, right? This didn't really, yes. And the first part of this didn't happen on his watch.
Right. No, it did not. No.
So I think, I appreciated the message that he sent out. Mm-hmm. I think he is trying to be more transparent in his communications.
Correct.
He's trying to be more candid. And in our community, even when you're transparent and candid, you're going to get hate, right? I mean, it's on the social.
That's true.
So, but having a board that will support his transparency and be transparent with him and try and be honest with him and be okay with him and the board admitting to mistakes. I think that's one of the things that I feel like I noticed with this situation, with the director of guidance. It feels like no one is admitting to mistakes, right?
Correct.
And I don't have an ego. I'm just a parent. Bimal's just a parent. We're just trying to do the best that we can. Sometimes we might make mistakes, and that's okay.
Nobody's perfect.
So I think just also being accountable to ourselves as leaders. Hopefully, by doing that, we can then create, lead by example in a way so that other board members will act similarly.
Right. With your children in mind, again, your parents, your kids are in the school system right now. This is paramount. This is the biggest. Your children are the most important part of your life, and you're trying to give not only them but all these kids better opportunities in a school system that's been in the news rather regularly over the last couple of years. I have friends in the national news. I was a news producer for a long time. They joke, they go, "Hey, your school's in the news again." I've been hearing this for years. So there's there is trouble in paradise.
And I think you can start to correct that by emulating the behavior that you want to see, right? So if Mr. Bing is trying to get ahead of it, he's doing the best he can right now.
Yeah, I agree.
He got dealt a loaded deck. He's getting started. He gets. Deirdre eloquently said he deserves some grace. He deserves time to get there. But the leadership that he's trying to showcase, the board should reflect that, and it's a trickle down, right? Everyone should model their behavior off of that. It's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to sometimes it's not okay to get it wrong. But what it should be is the more that you can communicate this stuff out, the less other people are filling in the voids of information, right? I mean, I think that's what got us into this invoice mess, is that there was just too much gaps of communication and silence that other people are starting to fill and wonder and question and all these things. Where you could have got ahead of it a lot earlier. And I'm sure if you were to ask Mr. Bing right now, he would, if he was looking back, he'd be like, yeah, maybe we should have done X, Y, and Z instead of whatever it is. But we are where we are.
Do you guys agree that they should have hired that person to do the guidance counselor? And
You talk about the consultant.
The consultant, I'm sorry, yeah. Did you agree with that? Or you would have handled it a different way?
I would not have let go of somebody in order to have that same person be replaced by a consultant, unless there was like a wide dereliction of duty or there was something that was there. I don't think that does not seem to be the case.
A lot of people believe it was like a waste of money, that money could have used for that person that just got left. They could have used that for his salary.
We still got left with a lot of kids not having the classes that they wanted.
Right.
Oh.
We see the lines around the block of kids trying to get into class. And I'm reading online that some kids still don't have the classes necessary to get into college. And parents are like, oh, no, you're not. And I don't know if it's a Spanish class or what, but there's classes kids are not in. They're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
That's a scary
Who
situation.
do we think that dropped the ball here? Who do we think?
It's hard to know because some people on the board they claim to know that they knew about, they said that they knew about this. So I don't want to speculate, but I do agree. We spent pretty much 75% of this guy's salary or so on this consultant, and we got nothing essentially in return. And this was I think the director of guidance salary is like 137 or something. So that's a full year's of work, right? That's not just putting together a master schedule. So, what I'd like to do is kind of look forward. At the last board meeting, they presented this idea of the principal doing the schedule with 2 part-time counselors helping him. And then we're going to reimagine this director of guidance role. And it feels like maybe we just need to pause and really take a look at what do we need as a district in terms of getting our master schedule together. If we need mental health, how do we make that part of it? But it feels like we're constantly putting on Band-Aids, and we think about Band-Aids for 1 year at a time instead of really thinking it through. Even this new, reimagined director of guidance, the first year they're going to be funded with a grant that we got, a 1-year grant. Well, then I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to fund the person beyond this first year, right? And maybe those questions are being asked behind closed doors. But our trust is so low, right? The parents' trust is low, the teachers' trust is low, the students' trust are low. So at this point, we're at a place where we need to over communicate, right? So that these people don't fill in the gaps on Facebook with false information.
Correct.
So I think that's where we want to try and come in is over communicate in a way and help the super over communicate. Yeah.
And by the way, it's not always misinformation, right? Sometimes you need the citizens to actually fill in the gaps correctly when it's not being done, right? I mean, I think we've got some very, tenacious board watchers and people who really care about the community that are trying to do the right thing when they don't see it being done on the other end of it, right? So it's not just a misinformation. Like you need those warriors that are out there trying to dig through the garbage cans and figure out what's going on, right? And that's important.
Yeah, I mean, what if someone hadn't Oprah the information?
That's another thing. Yeah. What would have happened?
Right. Yeah. It's right. That's right. That someone had to actually go to the effort of finding out what was going on here. It wasn't, again, when we're talking about transparency and things of that nature. This was the not transparent.
So we really don't know who dropped the ball, who hired that person. We don't know yet.
I think it's hard to know from where Deirdre and I are, right?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
guys
like,
wouldn't. Yeah, that would be the Board of Ed.
The four of us together
Yeah.
are not going to know as
No.
much as if you're in there. That's why we want to get in there to understand, what went into the decision making and how we got to where we are. And by the way, I mean, Deirdre and I talk about this a lot with Jeff as well, is that some of these things that we're talking about are basics. Like a schedule has been happening at the high school level, at the school level for decades. And I don't understand why that has to be something that needs to be reimagined or rethought. Like these are just, I don't know. Does seem to be basic table stakes that we should be able to do as a district.
When you guys find out who was to blame,
We'll come-
give us a call. Give us a call.
So we're going to take a quick break here, commercial break. We'll be back in just a bit.
I bet the board is spelled B-O-R-E-D.
Elevated by the Cannabis Lady. Owner Jill Cohen is passionate about cannabis. Her dispensary caters to those with a refined taste. She believes that cannabis can transform lives into an elevated experience when properly used. The plants, with their healing benefits, bring happiness while lowering anxiety, pain, and many other symptoms. Elevated by the Cannabis Lady offers a 5-star experience that starts with a friendly environment and highly trained bud tenders ready to guide every customer on their journey. Jill and her team are committed to a higher level of wellness. Check out the Cannabis Lady at 9 Highland Place, downtown Maplewood. Be sure to mention the SOMA Talks podcast and get 20% off. That's 20% off. Righteous bucks. The Cannabis Lady, the best. Davis Advocacy and Consulting, also known as DAC, is your trusted partner in legal solutions. From business law to civil rights, DAC is here to tackle all your legal needs. With specialized services in employment law, trust and estates, education, medical malpractice, and civil rights, DAC is here to be your trusted advisor. Let DAC guide you through the complexities of the legal system and secure the outcomes you deserve. Contact Davis Advocacy and Consulting today for reliable and tailored legal support. The website is calldac.com. Again, their website, calldac.com. Davis Advocacy and Consulting, turning advocacy into empowerment. And we're back on the SOMA Talks podcast. Ileana, we are having a great conversation, aren't we?
I know.
Yeah, Ileana, I'm having the time of my life with Deirdre Brown.
I know, it's our first candidate coming to our podcast, finally.
That's right, and Bimal Kapadia. That's right. Yes, we do have candidates finally willing to sit down with us for these hard-hitting questions, Ileana. I think you and I are the next 60 Minutes, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right, coming up next on 60 Minutes.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm
working
curious
on it
about
already.
this question. When you guys were canvassing, did you guys see any Adirondacks chairs?
We'll save that for the next SOMA Talks podcast.
That's after the election.
This is a G-rated SOMA Talks podcast, right? So the after-hours SOMA Talks
I had
podcast.
to ask. I had to
That's
ask.
right.
I did see a pineapple when I was out the outdoors. I did see that.
Yes.
my
this is
God.
SOMA. But we actually wanted to talk about, Ileana, you had a question about the teachers.
Yeah. I've been to a couple of debates, and it seems like teachers' themes is not really talked about. I know that right now teachers are not very happy. They're not even comfortable. They don't know where they're going. I'm sure most of them are thinking of leaving. I
And
don't
teachers
know.
are leaving.
Are they?
We're losing teachers.
Good teachers.
We're losing, and teachers are unhappy. We've had Rocio Lopez on, who's the teachers union president, and she says, that the morale is not high right now.
No, exactly.
The morale,
And now with this contract, that it's not going
contract
anywhere.
impasse, there seems to be like, hey, maybe there's better opportunities in other districts, and teachers who have the skills and the experience are headed to these other districts. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah.
You want me to go? Okay,
Sure.
yeah. So I think, look, we're almost in November now, right? And the fact that a contract negotiation has dragged out this long is
Since April, I
is-
think
it's-
Rocio said March.
It's
or
almost
April, yeah.
it's almost untenable, right? And in any negotiation, we've said it before on the trail, is that it shouldn't be something where either side is so far away in their demands that it's going to take a long time to get to the middle. You kind of know where it's going to go, right? And I think what could have happened here in the beginning is like, we all know the teachers deserve a contract. We all know they deserve a raise. We all know that we need to appreciate the teachers. I don't think these things are givens and they're understood. So if you actually go into that in a negotiation, you can get to the right spot really fast. And it shouldn't become antagonistic, nor should you be using your social media, your own social media, or the public to actually use as negotiating levers. These are just tactics that will just pin people against each other, and you actually lose sight of what you're trying to get done. So that's an unfortunate thing. But I think for Deirdre and I, just over the campaign of getting to talk to a lot of the teachers.
Have you?
We've been really fortunate with that.
What's their feelings? What did you get from them? They're really unhappy?
We've met with SOMA, certain folks in the SOMA, and yeah, I mean, I think there is a overarching low morale in the sense of just not being listened to or brought to the table or being even appreciated and supported. One of the things that we learned, and Deirdre knows as well about this, is that they haven't been brought into any policy decisions since 2020.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So these teachers are on the front lines of most of the decisions that get made from the administration and the district, and there should be ample time and an opportunity to bring them in on the upfront or get a chance for their feedback. That is one of the first things that we should just try and correct, right?
That's like the football players coming off the field and you're not saying, well, what's going on out there?
What did you see out there? What happened?
You're right. Is right? The guy. I mean, that's you ask the people that are in the midst of the battle, in the middle of it, and they're not since 2020. That's amazing.
I think they feel like they're blind. They don't even know what's going on. Unappreciated. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, we've already learned so much, and I would imagine we'll learn so much more when on the board if we try and bring the teachers in to talk about, policy ideas we have, monitoring how policies are going. They gave us a lot of feedback about their experiences with the intentional integration initiative.
Oh, that's a good. Who better than them?
Right.
That could see it up front.
Exactly. When we had that question about meals for children and them not getting their meals because they were moved to a different school, the teachers had talked to us about that before, that question at the debate.
The breakfast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that they used to have in Seth Boyd, but now that they changed to another school, they don't get the breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, this is a very small example, but one teacher was talking about in their room, the construction workers hung the hooks up so high and so close together, A, the children can't reach them, and B, you're going to be spreading lice, right? And that's a very, very small example, but I think with the intentional integration initiative, kids not getting meals, kids not getting the special education supports that should have followed them. I mean, these are the things that the teachers see, right, every day, and we should be absolutely tapping into their expertise and their experience. Mm-hmm. And I think another part of, going back to the teachers' impasse is because our budget has not been transparent for so long. We used to do more reporting publicly prior to 2020 than we've been doing under Burnside. I think there's this also, it goes back to lack of trust because they don't necessarily believe that the district doesn't have the money. I mean, no one really knows, right, where the money is.
There's half of the community believe we have the money, and the other half believes we don't have the money. A lot of teachers they have the money, they're just holding into it. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, so you can't blame them for their logic, right? So play it out. You say there's a budget shortfall. You have the reduction in force. You talk about supplies being cut, teachers being cut, paraprofessionals being cut, director of guidance being cut. But yet we can find $83K for a consultant.
Yep.
And you don't have a contract yet, and you're worried about where the money's going or where it's coming from. Of course, the teachers are going to make.
And then rehire the paras again, rehire somebody. Yeah.
So again, those things like that, you can't. Of course, you can draw a line through that stuff, and you can't fault them for the logic of wondering, is there something there? And again, communication, right? Knowing if you have an opaque budget process for the last few years, you're only dealing with the information that's being handed to you, and then otherwise you're digging for it.
Well, a little shout out to Marshall School and the teachers there. I'm friendly with quite a few of them. These are two candidates right now that have your back. So Marshall School,
shout out to Columbia High School.
Okay.
Shout out to Columbia High School. Rocio
Lakewood Middle,
Lopez,
Clinton School,
there.
all of them, but specifically Marsh. I have some good friends there, and these are concerns that they have.
I think each
discussed with
school
me.
have their own concerns.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll add. My daughter has had some amazing. Both of my kids have had some amazing teachers, but at the high school. And I'm worried that my son, who's an 8th grader, will not have those teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how low it's feeling right now.
Yeah, I mean, these look the I'm willing to take, if I was to have a unofficial polling of residents in South Orange, Maplewood, I guarantee you a lot of parents would be able to name most of their teachers growing up.
I could.
Absolutely.
And I would guarantee you that they could not name nearly half as many of their bosses after they had graduated.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
So we all know that teachers are leave such a high impression as to shaping of who you are, what you want to be, how to behave. After the parents, they are probably the people that are seen and on the front lines of what your child is going through and shaping. They're like tattoos in your memory, right? Of your life.
Try to remember the last 10 World Series winners. You can't do it, but try to remember your top 10 teachers.
Yeah.
You could list it probably real quickly. I know I can. Mr. Hunt, top of the list. Miss Colbert.
There you go. See?
Boom, and I'm going to go right on down.
Even the mean teachers, you remember.
You remember all of them.
Mr. Hill. I remember Mr. Hill.
I keep in, I'm not on Facebook as much and stuff, a little bit more because of the campaign, but the only person I was staying in touch after all these years, more than some of my high school friends, was actually my art teacher from high school. And so that's something to be said. That's, again, I'm not going to date myself too much, but that's almost 30 years later, and you're still in touch.
And you're still right, yeah. You still call Mr. So-and-so and Mrs.
Always,
So-and-so.
always. As a parent, a quick tangent, I always feel very weird when I meet my kids' teachers and try and call them by their first name.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. So I want to be like, hello, hi, Miss Sullivan, hi, Mr. Jones.
How do you do this? What's the ethical? You call him first name or call him Mrs.?
I go Mr. Miss.
Oh, yeah, me
last
too,
name.
definitely.
That's funny. Yeah, 100% feel more comfortable. You're a teacher. That's your title, Mister. Yes. Unless it's doctor, But that's usually doctors usually in the college level, right? All of a sudden, But
I work for Elizabeth School District, and the parents always refer to me as Mrs. Castillo. They never do my first name. So I guess
they call you Mrs.
Miss Castillo.
Oh, Miss
Castillo.
Yes.
It's respect.
Yes.
Respect.
Yeah,
It is respect. Yes. Yeah.
They probably don't know
I
my
can call
first
you
name.
that too
That's
if you
why
want.
they
I can start calling you Miss Castillo.
No, I feel
if
so
you prefer.
old when they do the Mrs. Castillo. I'm like, come on.
Someone called my wife ma'am recently. She was like, well, I don't know why she called me ma'am. I'm like, because you were like 40 years older than her. But she didn't like that. Sorry, I shouldn't have told that. Sorry. But getting back to what we're talking about, Deirdre, I want to ask you a question, and I hope I'm not throwing a curveball at you.
Throw it.
Was you were again by your opponents. It seemed like they kind of said something about you not really having Frank Sanchez's back during that whole mess, and that wasn't true. You mind sharing a little bit about that whole situation? I mean, you were a friend of Frank, for all intents and purposes,
Yes.
as is many of us in the community.
Yes, I am actually friends with Frank, and I am a friend of Frank.
Okay.
Have you talked to Frank?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Mr. Sanchez has been, so great with my daughter in the high school. I mean, they have such a wonderful relationship, especially just because of their working together when she was on the board. But regardless of that, I mean, if you're in the high school, Mr. Sanchez, there was not an event that you went to that he is not there,
Yeah.
Whether it's the Martin Luther King Day celebration, a football game, a chorus concert, he is our high school's biggest cheerleader and fan, and I think he has brought this sense of community and pride that has really been lacking, and he really seems to be able to relate to so many of the students. So when what happened last year happened, I was extremely upset. It was I think his treatment was terrible by our district. And I was a big friend of Frank. I went to the rally. I donated. I had a sign. I posted and asked other people to donate. So, certainly when I wrote about that and said, I said I was a proponent of Friends of Frank.
Sure.
And I think verbally I said I was a supporter.
Yeah, I was there. That's what you said.
Yeah, I mean, I just meant I was a huge supporter of that initiative. I'm very appreciative of the people who started that initiative.
You didn't take any responsibility. Like, I made the group.
No,
I did this.
You weren't on the
Absolutely
front
not.
line, but you were in support. I mean, you were there,
Yeah.
and when he got rehired, I'm sure you had the so many others in the community. You had your fist pumped in the air.
Right. And I think, I certainly had it's kind of like me saying I'm a huge supporter of Kamala Harris.
Right.
I don't think anyone assumes that I'm meaning I'm running Kamala Harris's campaign.
Right.
Wait, you're not?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how I viewed it.
That might be easier, by the way, than running for Board of Ed in SOMA.
Yeah, but no, I didn't intend for it to come across that way, and I am appreciative to those people because that was a great campaign. I think it really showed the community support, and so much of our community loves Mr. Sanchez and what he's done for the high school.
Well, he's back, and I think you're a big part of that. So thank you for supporting him. The kids love him, parents love him. I don't know him, but you know what? Everybody I speak to speaks the world of him. Right, Ileana? I mean, very few people I've met have anything negative to say. But getting back to you guys, okay, because he got his job back. Now we got to get you.
Yeah, guys. Yeah.
Got to get you your job, your volunteer job. Is there anything that? Well, Seton Hall today. Here's a good question, actually. Well, here I am. I'm saying a good question. I'm telling myself I'm asking a good question. Seton Hall Prep today had an incident. It was basically it was a lockdown. Security. I'm not exactly sure about the specifics, but obviously it was very frightening for the children. It turned out to be the police were nothing happened. Knock wood. Security is a big concern with our school systems too. With our schools, what are your thoughts on security? Are we secure enough? Do we need more security? How do we protect these kids? It's a dangerous world today.
I mean, and this was a question actually brought up last night by a student at the debate. And today I had a friend text me saying, "Is everything okay at the school, Maplewood School?" And so I immediately I was shaking. I thought it was the Columbia High School. Then I found out it was Seton Hall. But I was shaking. We have so many people in our community.
Sure.
Their kids go to school there.
Yes, that's right.
It really brought it home. For the past 3 years, the student board representatives have brought up security as a number one issue. To our Board of Education and to the superintendent many times, and still, we still aren't taking it as seriously as I think we need to. Okay. Last year there were kids that came into the school. We just had a kid come into the school a week or two ago. As a member of the board, I hope that I would love to work with Mr. Vallis. I think he's the head of our security. I'm sure he's got wonderful ideas on what more we can do. I think it'll involve, having security guards that are trained, possibly thinking about what are those security guards paid. I mean, certainly they should be paid an amount commensurate with the importance of the job. We need standard operating procedures and we need expectations. I mean, I'm not sure what the high school is, where kids are now, but last year kids were expected to wear their IDs, but I don't really think that was an expectation. Kids really didn't wear their IDs. And so if no one's wearing IDs, you don't know who should be in the building and who shouldn't be. And so I don't know where that is today. Hopefully it's better, but security I do think needs to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those unfortunate realities that we're in right now. And and everything that we've heard so far and what happened at Seton Hall, while, obviously, thankfully nothing serious happened, but protocols were followed. It sounds like the students knew exactly what they needed to do. Again, unfortunately, that has to be a routine that they need to practice, but the students knew what they had to do. Protocols were in place. The police responded accordingly. So there's an upside in terms of at least that there was something in terms of something might have worked. God forbid that was going to be a grim reality. Again, it still stinks that this is the world that we have to live in. It's always heartbreaking when you see, numbers outside the windows and why that has to be the case now, which is also unfortunate. But where a lot of these security things, for me, having two kids in elementary school, it's a bit new of hearing a lot of this stuff because when I go drop my kids at South Mountain, it looks pretty secure. It looks like that's the right thing. But again, who knows what happens at the high school level when you have and they should have mobility. The kids should be able to roam free. They should be able to do the things that they need to do as as teenagers, right? We all remember what it was like growing up. And
I know, Lee. Didn't you say that you went through the windows?
I did. We used to climb out the second English class. It was second floor. You could jump out, and it was kind of those bushes there. We used to do all the time.
I could
or
say
Mrs.
at least,
Stefanelli. We jump right out.
I could say with confidence, at least 2 of us in this room have done that.
It was, and then you'd have to go around, and
That was Lee with
and
his
you'd walk back
afro
in the front
drew.
door and hope the principal didn't say. But now you wouldn't get in so quickly.
Did you have your
would hope.
afro Jew then?
What? The Jufro. I used to have a Jufro, which is like Jewish curly hair, and you call it Fro Jew.
Afro Jew.
The
Oh
Afro
my God.
Jew. But anyway, it was as you can see,
The Jufro.
it's long gone. Yes, but back in the day, I had a wonderful head of hair.
Back then, I don't think anybody had to worry about shitting and everything.
No.
People would go in and out and like that.
Yeah.
No, it never crossed your mind.
Ah, the good old days
Yeah.
when we were young and beautiful.
Oh, it's harder to be a kid now than it was when we were kids.
Even the ID, I know the kids have to with the IDs. My kid, when he left for school, he's 25 now. But I would say if your head wasn't attached to your shoulders, you'd forget that too. He would forget his book bag. He'd forget, the homework. He would.
My daughter,
two
too.
sneakers wrong. Those aren't matching sneakers, and now you're asking him to bring an ID also. I don't know. It just. I understand the issue, but we're really putting the burden on kids to prove that you belong there.
Exactly. Carrying IDs, they have to be vigilant. They have to have their, literally their head on a swivel. They have to understand all these things.
Why can't they leave the ID at school? Because in the school district where I work, the teachers collect them when they're leaving. They collect the ID, and when they come back in, they give it to them. That way, it doesn't get lost. Maybe they should do that.
Perhaps.
My daughter, you know how many times I have to drive the ID to my daughter because they won't let her to school
I guess it's a time-consuming situation, especially with. How many kids are in the Columbia High School? The thousands, 3,000. It's like a little city, right? So it's take a lot of time to.
Huge.
Yeah, I think we just need to. It's like so many things in our district. Take a step back and look at what we're doing. What are other districts doing and doing well, and how do we copy that?
Right.
Correct.
And so the IDs, maybe that is, I don't know. I mean, maybe that is a good way to do it.
Yeah, they collect them.
But let me ask you, what's your message to the thousands of families in the community, and so many of them, maybe private school, maybe maybe this is not working. What's your message moving forward to these parents that are saying, maybe I got to get my kid out of this school system? What would you say to them if you knocked on their door and they said, I think I'm taking my kid out. What do you think I should do?
I know there's so many of them in seed and prep, like a lot.
I mean, I think that's kind of why we're running in a way. I think we see that. We've felt it in some ways ourselves. Why is our district not serving all of our kids? Our community is awesome. I talk to parents. They've sent their kids to private school. They don't want to move because they love our community. But it's a shame then you're paying all these taxes and you don't feel like your school can serve your child. And so for us, it's kind of like come on board with us. We're just parents. We're the voice of parents. We can bring that to the board. And it's about level setting in a way. It's level setting the temperament of the board, working with the superintendent, and then getting back to basics, the busing, the budgeting, scheduling, guidance. These are things that are very, every school district has to do on an annual basis. And we just seem to be faltering with it in recent years. And I think if we can get those things on track, and by the way, we need to get those things on track because we do have these important equity recommendations. We have these important special education recommendations. We have to rebuild our arts programs. We have to be able to provide athletic facilities for all of our students. This is just part of being a school district. And so for us, it's kind of like, let's recenter. It feels like in recent years, we like to just throw things on the wall and see if they work.
Yes.
And we don't really think them through. We don't think them through when we're planning, and we don't think through every single ramification of them. And I think for us, we'll bring that temperament of, okay, let's bring people in, let's think of ideas, and let's workshop these ideas all the way through before we start to implement them. And then when we implement them, let's make sure the teachers are prepared to implement them. Let's make sure the administration's prepared to implement them. And then as we're implementing them, let's use data to see what are our goals. Are we making progress? These are things that you do when you're implementing policy. It's not it's not rocket science, but it seems like we've struggled with that in recent years. And if we can do that, I truly believe we have such a wonderful community. We have a chance at a new beginning with a new superintendent. It feels like with the right leadership behind him, which is thoughtful, which is accountable, transparent, bringing together the people that have been felt, the parents, the teachers, the students that have been left out on the sidelines. It feels like we can get back on track and we can serve all of our students.
Yeah, I think when we owe it to ourselves to have the district match the community, right? It's what we all talked about. It's what we all strive for. And if there is that a deviation between what the district and what the town looks like, parents will then make that decision to take their kids out of district or put them in the school. We'd rather it not be fait accompli where they see there's no other path, right? And if we can get those basics right, then let it be a decision what they make is right for their kid. Because, by the way, I mean, not every kid is built for public school. Sometimes it might make sense to go to boarding school or a private school, whatever it is, if they have that access and they have that choice to do so, fine. But let's not make it because there's no other option because they've given up on the public school system. When you give up on the public school system, it's a downward spiral for everything. Yeah. And it's really hard to get out of that, right? So this is a spot right now, and Deirdre said it perfectly with everything that we're talking about in terms of our campaign. This is that moment, right? We are at an inflection point. You hear that a lot at the federal level, at the nation level, and all that stuff. But it is in our town. This is a critical moment in terms of where we decide to be as a district. So the stakes are high. The voters have a choice. They know the things that are important for them. We have to reflect that, and I think we've done a pretty darn good job of going on our listening tour, hearing, trying to understand, absorb as much as we can, communicate that stuff out as much as we can to the rest of to anybody who's listening, to your listeners, to the voters, to the people that are attending the debates, to people on social, to when we're going door to door, because we have to reinstill confidence in the neighborhoods. We have to reinstill confidence into the teachers, the students, the parents. And that's going to take, that's going to take 9 board members. It's going to take an effective administration. It's going to take new leadership. It's going to take a lot of buy-in to get us to where we need to be. And you can't do it by having division. You can't do it by divisiveness, right?
I think the community is ready.
They're ready. I'm telling you.
They're tired of the drama. They're tired of the transparency.
And the negativity.
It is
the negativity that is, it just...
I read someone post online, they should all go and have a clean slate with 9 fresh people.
If you could close your eyes and think for a moment what the district should look like, you'll quickly find out that it is worth saving, it is worth fighting for,
Absolutely.
And it is worth voting for. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have a choice, and it's not, when you talk about that pit in your stomach that we said at the top, right? Like we all kind of got that a little bit.
And the parent talked about that last night, asked about the drama going on. Like, can you? And the response was a little weak, I'll be honest with you. I was hoping that someone, not talking about you, talk about the others that are in the thing. I was hoping like, no, we don't know more drama. Like, I wanted to feel that.
Yeah,
but they're like,
right.
because a lot of people feel like the Board of Ed is divided in 2. You got the social workers group, and then you got the other group. And then that's where the bickery starts because they have their own agenda, and then there's another agenda,
Well, look, agendas, that's a tough word, right?
Yeah.
When
I say agenda,
but when it's used the wrong way.
Because they're being influenced by a social group.
Well,
and I've asked people that you think they're influenced, and they're like, absolutely.
Well, there's politics. There's politics
exactly
on a local level, which I think has gotten a little out of control. That's my take.
How do you guys manage that? You guys got that?
I don't know if we have it. I mean,
are you going to be those Board of Ed? You're going to call them out? You did wrong. That's not. Are you going to be that? Are you going to be the quiet one? Like, I'm not going to touch that. Like, I'm not putting you in this spot, but some people like to see that they've been called out if they did something wrong.
I think Deirdre and I have the right tone, tenor, temperament to have polite discord.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean putting somebody. It doesn't mean talking at. Doesn't mean talking down to. It doesn't mean negative body. It doesn't mean negative body language. It doesn't mean, gaslighting or, whatever behaviors that we might see out there before, but it is taking it head on and calling them out. And by the way, we would expect the same thing. Deirdre and I and Jeff would expect the same exact thing if we were saying something incorrect or behaving incorrectly. You got to be able to.
What I like about you guys are very approachable. Like, even though I didn't know you guys didn't have that cold front.
Well, they're just approachable compared to you.
Because...
But no, they are. These are very lovely people.
People come...
And so if you're basing a vote on them being lovely, they are lovely, but they're also... As you can hear, they know what they're talking about. They're prepared. They're ready to go.
Well, I can't vote for a candidate that ignores me or don't give me the minute to hear me out or anything. I'm sorry. If you give me the wrong look and you pass by, I'm not giving you my vote.
I know. That's why she doesn't vote for me. For anything. But I think the most important question I'm going to ask of the night, and so many people are talking about it on the social media sites. On the lawn side, how did you decide whose name came first, second, and third? That's everybody wants to know.
That's a great question.
Alphabetical order? Isn't it usually?
No, that would be Bennett, Brown, Kapadia.
You guys did it alphabetical order or no?
No.
You're Brown, Bennett, Kapadia.
Yes,
Brown, Bennett.
because
With the ladies
woman.
first.
That's right.
Good.
It was chivalry at its finest.
Yeah. And then you had the B and the B, and then you're like, I guess I'm last.
So
with K.
Are we going with the fun section?
Yeah. I know you guys are on time. You got things you got to do, but do you have a minute for Ileana's fun?
What's your favorite restaurant in Maplewood, South Orange?
These are the things she loves. Ileana loves asking people personal questions about what they love most about the community.
That's me, Mrs. Nosy.
Do you have a favorite restaurant? And hopefully it's Coda. They are our sponsor after all.
Oh, stop. You got plenty about it.
But Coda understands that there are other restaurants too. And he dines at those
We're being biased here, but what's your favorite place to go? Like, hey, let's go over there. Like your go-to.
Yeah, where might I run into you for a cold beer?
I will say, well, not for a cold beer, but it used to be Reservoir Pizza. Was always one that I always go for.
Cash only, great pizza.
Cash only, got to respect that. Right. Though I never would know where to park anymore because that gravel lot. So I'm always breaking the law a little bit when I go there. But Bunny's Pizza has taken the top spot.
That's a classic.
So it's great.
So I've only discovered it maybe a couple months ago. So
really? Have you met Leslie? She's always sitting there and
she's there on the taking the orders.
Yeah, taking the order.
So I gotta go.
If you introduce yourself, she's lovely.
And she never forgets you. You introduce yourself, she will never forgets a face.
I'm in.
I'm a Sabatino's pizza fan.
Sabatino's. Sister was just there, right?
Yeah,
I think we there for that. That might have been a little hard to get a pizza that day, but Sabatino's. He just opened 5-6 years ago, and he's he's got it going on. We have some talented people in this community, and our school system too is very. You go to these sites, there's the people who lived here a long time ago, remember when we lived in South Orange. They talk about this place glowingly. They talk about the restaurants and where they went after school and Grunning's ice cream. And I don't know if kids today are going to have that same thought moving forward. It's been a rough last couple of years, but this, as you said, this is a wonderful community, and we're happy, wonderful people want to be the next generation of leadership, and I think that's what you guys represent.
Yeah, and I do think that our kids, there is a sense of community here, right? That's why we're all so passionate, and I think that does rub off on our kids. So I do hope that, maybe, the bear was made off of Bagel Chateau. And maybe, 20 years from now, there'll be another TV show made off of the Bagel Chateau.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah, he was a Bagel Chateau, right? The runner, right? The showrunner was a Bagel Chateau.
I guess the producer went to CHS, and she modeled the beef restaurant. Yeah, was modeled off of Bagel Chateau. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So how about that, Ileana?
I had no idea.
This is like that.
Right. So you're right. So anyway. Ileana, you have one last question because I know these guys got to run. They've got a lot to do. They got to win an election on Tuesday.
I know you guys said that you guys haven't been on Facebook. Like recently, you became part of Facebook and probably Instagram too. Reading everybody, do you got a favorite poster? Like someone you read, you're like, oh, I liked how that people express or talk. Like anyone jumps in mind?
As far as posters are concerned?
Yeah, poster. From any group. Can be from your campaign or Lounge or Talks.
As long as you don't say Chris Traska.
I don't even think.
I love Chris.
I cannot, I have not
You
been
can say
on
pie,
it. No,
Madam Pie,
honestly,
anybody?
honestly, what happened was once the whole thing with Mr. Sanchez happened to me, I have not been on Facebook.
You
because
just only read?
I don't even read.
Oh, you don't?
No, because I feel like I just don't want to see the talks. I don't want to be exposed to it.
I don't blame you. You know what? It's great when someone says something nice about you, but even on this podcast, I've read someone's saying something rude about
You're
the pie,
smart
and you know what?
about
And
it.
like, well, that's just how it's going to be. But then it ruins your day. You
know
then the
what?
rest of the
That's
day,
pretty smart
it's
to
like I'll read
just
10
ignore
great
it.
things about us, and one person will say something negative, and then that's what's sticking in my head. the rest of
Right,
the
and
day.
I mean, I do have friends that will text me and they'll show me certain
yeah.
things. They'll show me
Yeah.
all the positive stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, someone said this, but everyone else said this." So they'll
Yeah,
help me feel
yeah,
better, and they kind
fair
of give me the play-by-play, but I don't need to see it myself.
Look, if we talk about this social impacts of what it does to the kids and stuff like that, imagine what it happens to it happens to adults too.
Right.
And now if you're in
I
the middle of a
know,
campaign
I know.
where you're trying to win votes and you're trying to go with something and it's competitive, yeah, it's a tough place to be. So I commend Deirdre for her vigilance and staying off it.
Yes.
We can't restrain ourselves.
I will admit that the banter on Soma Talks is pretty funny.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember some of the guys' names, but the ones that they get, they give you crappily and stuff like that.
Paul
so,
J. Haley.
Well,
so there's some good humor in there.
there's
Yes.
a lot of humor there.
Yeah, no, it's right, exactly. Look, things get heated, but I think generally speaking, it's always the same situation.
I call it the misfit group.
Right, but you online, you fight, and then you run into the guy, and you realize, geez, he's nicer.
He's nice,
and that
yeah.
was what's nice again about the podcast and having you guys come in because, again, it was an opportunity to meet you as opposed to just seeing you in a debate where questions are being fired at you. 2 minutes to answer.
I know.
I don't know how you can
1 minute answers. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's-
I know.
It's
You guys
tough.
can never finish your thought.
Right, yeah.
Poor
Like
Jeff.
these people must
Poor
think
Jeff.
I know.
Yeah, right.
When they put the 30 second, you can see him already sweating nervous. I was like, poor
God
guy.
forbid you got to sneeze, right? And then that's like 30 seconds
Seconds.
wiped out, right? You got 30 seconds left.
Yeah, if you say Board of Ed, if you say Board of Education, you lost a second.
Right,
You
that's
have to
right,
say
yeah,
BOE,
yeah.
you have to use acronyms. So yeah,
Every minute counts.
Every second
second.
counts. Every second counts.
So we are, Ileana, I think we can
Yeah, we
say, well,
cover.
I am asking everybody, please come out and vote for Brown, Bennett, and Kapadia.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, I
I'm
am
voting
endorsing
for
you
them,
guys.
too.
I think you guys
Me too, I'm
have the
endorsing
right
you guys.
temperament. I know Jeff well. He is, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. He's been there before, and you guys are ready for this. So, Ileana?
I'm biased because they came to the podcast. So
They
you
got-
guys got my vote.
That's right. So, anyway, guys, I guess we should call it a day. So,
I'm sure I'll see you guys in doing the voting because I got to vote, so I'll probably see one of you guys
Oh, good.
doing.
and chances are, you guys, what's this week going? Are you guys be knocking on doors?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we'll be at Halloween down in the village tomorrow.
Oh, you guys, I'm gonna be there. Yeah.
Old school campaigning.
Mm-hmm.
Knock on
Old
doors.
school campaign,
right,
knocking
yeah.
on doors, ground and pound. We'll be at the parade. We'll be out there on Halloween. We'll be out
Have you
there all
guys
weekend.
and the other candidates campaigning at the same place? How do you guys get along when both of you guys are competing at the same
It's like
spot?
West Side Story.
That's right.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, they're over
It's
there. Let's go this
like,
way.
You say Arun is like Newman from Seinfeld. Like, oh, Arun, right?
Look, I think it's been collegial for the most
Let me
part.
ask you this: when you guys canvass and you see one of their signs, do you guys go inside the house or do you just skip it?
You walk by. I mean,
Oh, you
it's,
guys walk
You
by.
respect the sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Respect the sign.
Respect the sign.
Yeah.
I ran for office, and we got to go. But I ran for office, Maplewood Township Committee. I didn't run like you guys are running for a reason. I ran just to try to be popular. But I spent 45 minutes with this one guy, and I told him what I was going to do, and I was going to make these changes, and everything was going to be great. And I asked the guy a lawn side, and he said, "Let me think about the lawn side." I go there the next day. So if you want the lawn side, he had DeLuca's lawn sign
no
on his lawn.
No way.
Filibustered you.
He did.
He stopped
knew
you from
exactly
canvassing to
what he
others.
was doing. It turned out he was a district leader, which I didn't know. I was an amateur.
no.
Right, I just remember the next day I had my sign in the car, like, ooh, I think I'll get it. And I see
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a true story. So, all right. So, Ileana, I guess we'll call it an evening.
Oh,
So-
I forgot to ask you.
Yeah,
Any
every
stores?
time I try to wrap
know.
things up.
I'm sorry. Any stores endorsing you guys? Sometimes I see like there's some business that put
Yeah,
the.
we saw there's Urban Casa on Valley in Maplewood. Neil Schneider, go stop by
Excellent.
there. Big supporter.
It's tough to get businesses because they don't want to rock the
Right.
boat. They don't want. Oh well, they don't want to.
Yeah.
If I endorse you, then their supporters aren't going to come in, and so it's a tough spot to put a business in, but occasionally they.
No, I got you 20 votes. I have 20 people that every year they ask me, who should we vote for Board of Ed? Because they do the in-home and they're not into the Board of Ed like thing.
Yeah, Leslie actually from Bunny's put my sign up when I was running. I was running in Maplewood,
Leslie is good
it was
at
really
putting
odd
board,
in South Orange. It was like the only
All right,
business
maybe
that had
we'll-
my sign was in South Orange. But
Might have to
shout
go
out
to
to
Leslie's.
Leslie.
Might have to go there.
That is good.
That's
So
right.
yeah, my 20 people, I gave you 3 there. So you got
Well,
20 from
thank
me.
you. Thank you. I mean, thank you so much for having
Well,
us today.
21,
This
because
has
I
been
still
really
gotta vote.
fun.
Guys,
And
a lot of
thank
fun.
you for
Really
your.
cool.
Yeah, you guys were very
Thank
fun.
you.
All right, so Tuesday, guys, you know what to do. Out, vote for Brown, Bennett, and Kapadia, and look, better days ahead for the school
And Lee will
board.
buy you drinks if you vote for them.
Yeah, is that legal? I don't know. Can I don't know. There might be a little,
Plausible deniability.
right, election
So,
board
yeah.
inquiry. But anyway, guys, thanks again,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
we'll do it again real soon. So everybody, good night. Soma Talks podcast. Until we meet again.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the SOMA Talk podcast. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The SOMA Talk podcast name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.